We will begin this morning's, today is what we call the Fall Higan or Equinox service. Usually we have it in the third Sunday of September, but last week we had the BC Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Federation Memorial Service, so we delayed it by 1 week. So we're holding our Fall Equinox service today, or Ohigan service. And we'll begin with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the recitation of the name of the Buddha, or the Nembutsu. So Judy, all you have to do is sit quietly, and then after we do the silent meditation, I'll be reciting the name of the Buddha. Next, we're going to be having our reading. Sorry, everyone. Trying to look at the large screen and doing this is Right, there we go. So I hope you can see all that on the screen there. We are going to be reading together our pledge. Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I shall carefully share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall be open-minded and act accordingly, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I shall share the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life we have received, I shall live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who continues to emancipate all. And next we will have the chanting, and we'll begin with the chanting of the Sanbujo. You see that on the screen, or I've sent it to you before. So we'll chant the Sanbujo, and then following that, we're going to be chanting the Junirai, or 12 adorations. Namandos, namandos, namandos. Just for your information, Judy, in this purple book that you have in front of you, yeah, it's on page 89 of that purple book, what we're chanting. And then after we chant it on 89, we're chanting what's on page 63. So 89 and 63. Please join me in reading the English translation, which you'll find at the bottom there. We respectfully welcome Amida Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome Shakyamuni Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome the Buddhas of all times and places to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. English translation, page 17 of your book. Before Amida Buddha, whom Deva, heavenly beings and men worship, I humble myself in deepest reverence. In this wondrous land of bliss, surrounded is he by countless bodhisattvas. His golden form shines forth pure like the king of Mount Sumeru. His practice of truth is steadfast like an elephant's pace. His eyes radiate like pure blue lotus blossoms. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. His countenance is perfectly pure and round like the full moon. His majestic light shines like 1,000 suns and moons. His voice is like a heavenly drum, yet like a heavenly bird, Kokila. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Avalokitesvara wears upon his crown the image of Amida adorned with many precious jewels. He subdues the arrogance of demons and heretics. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Incomparable, vast and pure his virtues are, clearly extending like vast open space, his acts freely benefiting all. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Bodhisattvas from the 10 quarters and countless Maras, demons, always venerate him. He dwells with vow power for the sake of all beings. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. In the golden treasure pond where the lotus flowers bloom, established with goodness is a wondrous throne, where reigns the Lord like the king of the mountain. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. From the 10 quarters bodhisattvas come, revealing wondrous powers, they attain blissful state. Honoring his face, they offer eternal homage. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. All things are transient and without self, like the moon on water, lightning, shadow, or dew. The Dharma cannot be expressed by words, the Buddha proclaimed. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. No words of evil are in his land, no fear of evildoers, nor evil paths. With sincere heart all beings worship him. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. His land of infinite expediencies is without degenerate things or wicked beings. Upon rebirth, non-retrogressive bodhi does one attain. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Thus have I praised the virtues of Amida. Boundless are they like the water of the sea. Upon receiving these pure and good qualities, may all beings be reborn into his land. Naman Lobs, Naman Lobs, Naman Lobs, Naman Lobs. So this morning, actually I wanted to begin by sharing an incident that happened to me just a few days ago. As many of you on Zoom remember, and about last year in June, I had a seizure and I couldn't drive for 6 months, but I received my license back in February. And at that time, when I received my license, the ICBC, actually, are you okay if I take off my mask? Okay. So at that time, when I got my license back, ICBC told me that I would probably have to do a follow-up medical examination. So early in September, I received a letter from ICBC saying I have to have my follow-up medical review, and there was a form that came in the mail. Well, September was also, because I'm born in September, my license plate renewal also came about September. Okay. So anyways, I made an appointment with my doctors to go and get this medical form filled out. And I had the appointment set for this past Friday, so the 24th, I guess. And so on the 24th, or on the 23rd, the day before, I was getting things ready. And then I realized at that time, I did a real silly mistake. So the week before, I saw on our coffee table, I was just doing some cleaning up, and I noticed on our coffee table, there was an envelope from ICBC. And without looking into it, I just thought, oh, this was my license renewal reminder. And I had already renewed my license, so I remember putting that envelope in the recycling bin. Okay? So this was the week before. So on the Thursday, before my medical appointment, I realized that I had gotten rid of this form, because that envelope, the ICB envelope, was not my license renewal reminder, but it was in fact the medical form. So now I'm in a panic on Thursday morning, and I call up ICBC to see what I can do. And they said, well, you can get a new form, but all the ICBC locations, their offices, they're all booked up until October the 5th. So I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. I have an appointment the following day with the doctors, and here I am, I don't have that form. So the person I spoke with on the phone said, well, you can still go as a walk-in to ICBC offices. And so I went to the Lansdowne office, and this was around 10 o'clock in the morning. And when I got there, there was a security guard up front, and she told me that walk-ins, they aren't accepting walk-ins until after 2:30. Well, the person I spoke to on the phone didn't mention this. So I thought, oh, great. But anyways, I went back, came back to the temple once, and I went back in the afternoon, probably around 1:30ish. I wanted to get there early enough. But by the time I got there, there was already a very long lineup for people to go in the walk-in. So I stood in line and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And as I was waiting in this very long lineup, I happened to strike a conversation with a girl that was standing behind me. She was from the Philippines, but we had a nice conversation going on. And she suddenly she said, I just looked up in the app, and there is one opening tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. If you want to book it. I guess somebody must have canceled, so one opening came up at 10 in the morning. And I said to her, well, don't you want to take that appointment? She said, no, you look like you're busier than I am, so you can go ahead and book that. So I thanked her profusely, and I quickly booked. And so on Friday morning, 10 o'clock, or before 10 o'clock, I went to ICBC again, and I had to wait maybe 45 minutes the time I got out. And my doctor's appointment was for 11:30, so it was perfect timing. I got out, I got my form, and went to the doctor's. But, you know, as I went through this whole ordeal, I was reminded of, this happened a number of years ago. I'm going to show you this. There's this, you can see this little calligraphy on this nicely framed scroll or piece of paper. Okay. I did a similar type of mistake. This was way back in the early 1990s when we were still in Toronto. Okay. This is actually a calligraphy that was written by my maternal grandfather. And the calligraphy is actually just in the centerpiece here. Okay, and it's just one very thin strip of paper that it's written on. And why I'm showing you this is that calligraphy, it's written, it says, Toi shukuen wo yorokobe. Toi shukuen or yorokobe means rejoice in the many causes and conditions that have brought you about. Okay? Rejoice in the many causes and conditions that have brought you about, or brought this moment about. And this is actually from the writings of Shinran Shonin, the founder of our school of Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu. His scroll, of course, is facing the altar to the right of the Buddha. And I got this piece of paper when I first went to study in Japan. So this was around 1988, many, many years ago now. But when I arrived in Japan, it just so happened my maternal grandfather, Professor Shoken Yamazaki, was turning 80 years old. And they were having this big do for my grandfather. And there must have been maybe 150, 200 people there. And as a thank you to the guests who came, my grandfather actually wrote this calligraphy and gave everybody, I don't know how long it must have taken him, but he wrote this calligraphy and gave it to all the guests who had come. So I had this calligraphy, and it was actually originally in a bamboo, there's a little stand, a little bamboo stand. But one morning, and some of you have heard me talk about this before, but one morning, and I distinctly remember this, I saw a piece of paper on our floor, and I thought it was maybe some scrap paper that our boys were still very, very young at that time. So I thought maybe they had done some doodling or whatever, and they just left this scrap of paper on the floor. And again, I had thrown that away in the recycling. Now, to be fair, when it had fallen out of the little bamboo stand, it had flipped over onto its backside. So it just looked like a strip of paper, is what it looked like to me. And I didn't realize that I had thrown it away into the recycling for quite a while. And then one day, a while after, I looked and noticed that the little bamboo stand that it was on was missing the piece of paper. And that's when I realized that what I had thrown out was this scroll. Fortunately for me, my mother had a copy of this same scroll as well. And so she gave me her copy, and I made sure that I put it in this nice glass frame so that I would not lose it again. But the point of all this, as I mentioned, this scroll says to rejoice in all the causes and conditions that have brought this moment about. And of course, when we talk about the equinox service, the Ohigan service, it is a time of balance. It is a time where the universe is set into balance. And it is a time for us to reflect on being here and now. I don't know if any of you watched it. Yesterday, there was a 24-hour event called the Global Citizens Concert. It was a concert of all these famous musicians from around the world. They had locations in New York, Paris, Los Angeles, Mumbai. I think there was also from Seoul. But they were having all these artists giving concerts. And this Global Citizens Concert or movement is a movement to show that we live in one world. It's a movement to help the environment, environmental awareness, as well as for the inequity to bring, to show, for instance, the COVID-19 vaccination, how only the rich countries are getting it, and the poor countries are still very much unvaccinated. So all this, they were talking about the oneness of the world. And I couldn't help but think of, in fact, what the Buddha had taught, as well as what Shinran Shonin had said, is a fact. From many centuries, they have been telling us that we are all interconnected and that we are all one. And, you know, as I was thinking of this global citizens movement, in 2010, so that's already 11 years ago, I had the opportunity to attend a gathering. Myself and Roy Sensei, actually, we went together to the Unitarian Church in Vancouver. And they were having a gathering on environment and religion. And through that, there was a organization, and that organization, actually, I had the name of it here just a second. What was it? A Global Mind Shift. Global Mind Shift. And this organization, it is an organization to get us to rethink of what we think or what we take for granted. And in that Global Mind Shift, if you go to their website, I don't know if they're still around anymore, but back then when I went to their website, they had a bunch of videos that you could watch. And there was one very interesting video, and what they were talking about was time, or the measurement of time, to be more specific. And in there, they were saying, you know, how we measure time. We measure it by minutes, hours, days, years, right? And so for us, you know, the lifespan of a human being, we would say if somebody lives to be 100, that's a long time, right? But when we compare that, and you were saying how time is relative, and so if you talk about in the evolutionary sense, we measure time by millions of years, right? Millions of years. And then when we talk about the measurement of the formation of the universe, now we're talking about billions of years. In fact, it is said that the universe may have started about 13.7 billion years ago. Okay, 13.7 billion years ago. So when we compare the development of the universe with the span of one human lifetime, if we say that 13.7 billion years, let's compare that, let's say that's we're bringing it down to say that that equals 1 day. Okay, 13.7 billion equals 1 day. Then our one lifespan, if you say 24 hours in a day, you know, and our one lifespan, our 80-year average lifespan of 80 years equals only 1/10,000th of a second. So compared to the universe, if the universe is 13.7 billion is equated to 1 day, then our lifespan is only 1/10,000th of a second. Very, very brief. A flicker in time is our lifespan. However, and this is where it becomes very important, this is where this passage that my grandfather wrote in his calligraphy, the passage from Shinran Shonin's teachings. Rejoice in the many causes and conditions that have brought about this moment. Okay? In that flicker of time, we are here right now. We are participating together in this moment, in this service. And in this moment is when we can make a difference. In this moment, we can appreciate our life. And as I was watching parts of this global citizen concert, if you will, interspersed with the many singers, they had all these activists and government officials come out to pledge or to say what we are going to be doing. And it is now, in this moment, and I think this is where listening to the teachings or understanding Shinran Shonin's teachings, that in this moment, we begin to realize, as we appreciate the causes and conditions, our act of gratitude is to help others. Our act of gratitude is to share with others. And through that sharing, through that action, we find true peace and true happiness. So I hope during this period of Ohigan, the equinox, it is a time for us to reflect. It's time for us to see the beauty of our existence, but also a time to share in what we can. And it doesn't have to be something global. It can be just kind words to a person beside you, or it can be a gentle smile. And so it all begins with a small act to change the world. So I'd like to thank you for joining us for our Ohigan service, and I'd like to close our service by reciting the name of the Buddha or the Ronenbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much, Judy. Hi, Mary-san. So, thank you all. If you wanted to unmute yourself, you can do so now.
Thank you, Sensei. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Oh, and I should just let you know before you go off is that I will be starting my lecture series in October again, but it won't be till October 19th. October 19th will be Tuesday nights from the 19th. Lecture series will begin again. So for those who are interested, please email me and I could get you on the list for our lecture series. Okay.
Thank you, Reverend Akuta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian.
This is what I miss. I miss the Sansanga. Without the Sansanga, there's no true treasure. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha is what it's all about. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. I miss my Sangha. Thank you to everyone.
Thank
Namo
you.
Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Roy Sensei, you're on mute. Roy Sensei.
Yes.
Do you remember Sebastian from Victoria?
Yes, I sure do.
Oh.
I remember Sebastian from the days that your father was minister at our temple.
Yes.
We had made connections with Sebastian to start a Dharma sessions over in Victoria, right, Sebastian?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you. I remember you too now. Oh,
thank
my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sensei. Bye.
Bye.